Welcome back to the show. Anthony, let's talk politics.
Sure.
We know that the Liberals are licking their wounds after Trudeau stepped down. I know you'd like that. But do you think we'll actually see a federal election in the near future? And if we do, what would it take for the Liberals to make that call?
$20 says there'll be a federal election call in the next 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, right after he gets elected. I think you hit the nail on the head. Everybody probably knows it's going to be Mark Carney. There is a coronation. I'll backtrack on one thing. When I said unfortunately in the first part, I wanted a robust leadership debate. I wanted people to come to the table. I wanted people focusing on all the candidates. If you watch the debates, all four of those people had something to offer. I could listen to Frank Bayless talk about reforming healthcare.
Right.
Hours on end. So there will be a federal election call. It is going to come in the next couple of weeks. And I think we just have to wait and see. I think the debates are going to prove who's going to have the strength to lead this country, because I think a lot of people are going to pay attention to it with social media. But I think it's all going to be about how people are feeling. This is going to be a very emotional election.
Interesting. So, I mean, I've been paying attention to the polls. I pay attention to them all the time. But again, I take them with a grain of salt. Now, there's been a lot of talk lately about the Liberals not only gaining ground, but being neck and neck with the Conservatives. Do you think that these polls are telling the full story, or do you think that they're painting an overly optimistic picture, especially given how our parliamentary voting system works?
So here's the thing. Do I believe the NDP vote is collapsing across the country? I do believe that. Do I believe that there is going to be that obvious push for those progressives to go to the Liberals? Yes. Do I believe that the polls are neck and neck? I don't think so right now. I really don't, because I think that a lot of what I'm hearing from people, from clients, from political pundits is they're frustrated with a lot of these issues that people are blaming the Trudeau government for.
Right.
So that's going to be a lot to own as the next leader of the Liberal Party. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on that person, whoever it is, okay, to have to answer on how they're going to fix that and whether or not they're going to repeat the same mistakes.
So you think that they'll be able to build enough political goodwill in such a short period of time to sort of overcome what Trudeau, really the carnage he left behind?
So here's the thing. It's not impossible. Like I said, I do believe the NDP vote is collapsing. Jagmeet Singh has been a terrible leader of that party. I haven't seen something this terrible since the 1990s. So for me, I think this is going to boil down to, can you trust the next leader of this political party and potentially the next government to not carry on with some of these policies you're talking about that the public overwhelmingly has disdain for?
Right.
And are you going to put somebody in charge of the party from a Liberal perspective that is not going to disown completely the record? There are good things that the Trudeau government did, and we can discuss those if you want to. But is that person then going to throw that record out the window? I don't think people want conservative light. If you're a progressive voter, you want someone who's going to carry on certain things like climate change, investing in infrastructure, and investing in social programming.
Right. And you're under the impression that they're going to just cut the wrong things, keep the right things, and that'll be enough to convince these people to jump back in.
Well, look at what they're doing with the carbon tax. And you and I have had many disagreements about it, but we've also had agreements on how it should be structured if it's going to stay. So look at how many of them are walking back the carbon tax. Why? Because it's very unpopular.
Yes.
And to the fault of the government, the current Trudeau government, is they lost control of the narrative before they even had control of the narrative, which is what's led us to this point. So this should be a lesson for the next leader of the party.
Wouldn't you argue that it was just sort of poorly laid out, though? It was the way the strategy was implemented was broken. You and I have had the same conversation.
So I wasn't the prime minister, but I told you what my what my strategy would have been, because I understand the voting public. I've knocked on 6,500 doors in this province. I know how people think. I know what the voting population wants. So the way that we rolled out the carbon tax plan, as far as I'm concerned, was just trust us, which in the current political climate, even 10 years ago, is very hard to convince a group of voters that are going to say, yeah, you know what, buddy, take my money and we're all good. You can't do that. The rebates were run out improperly. We only just started talking about them maybe just a little over 6 months ago.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's too little too late.
So you also mentioned Frank Bayless. I know you're a fan of how he's been operating lately,
Yeah.
but we kind of know that it's going to end up being Mark Carney.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still feel that they've got the same chance to win, or would you still give them the same amount of support knowing that maybe you would have selected another leader?
I think. Oh, this is my favorite question. Do you rally around the new leader because you're a Liberal and you believe in those values, or do you just become a curmudgeon and you're mad because the leader you wanted didn't lose? I saw this happen in 2020 with the Ontario Liberals when the former leader was elected. Everyone's like, I'm not working on the next election. Well, that's just stupid. Because if you're a Liberal, you're a Liberal. You're a Liberal 365 days a year. It's a full-time job. And you can't pick and choose. Now, if you're what I'm sort of evolving into now, which is more like, I want to support them, but I'm not going to let you be stupid. I'm not owning the stupidity. And this is part of maturing in the political
Just
world.
going to say, yeah, sounds like you're maturing.
It's part of
Anthony.
maturing in the political world, which is what I love about my show and your show, is that you're politically agnostic. I know where you're leaning in this next election, but I think if something good was on the table from the Liberals, you would give it the applause it deserves. Same thing I would do with the Conservatives, right? So do we rally behind the leader? Yeah, of course. We don't want to lose the election.
Yeah.
Liberals don't like what Pierre Poilievre is selling, and most progressives don't like that. So are you going to throw out your vote putting Pierre Poilievre as prime minister because you don't like Mark Carney? I think that's stupid.
Well, we will see when we come right back.